Hello there, and welcome to a very special episode of Electric Sheep. This is our 171 subscriber special. We had quite a jump from the last time. Had a short I posted about a moose, and people really seem to like that one. So if I see the moose again, you better believe I'm going to film that thing. But that's really unrelated. That's just channel news, I suppose. In Electric Sheep news, we're trying out a new narration voice. So let me know if you preferred the old voice or if you're liking this change to more masculine narration. So without any further delay, this is The Man with No Hat. And that is the title, even though there's no space between the title and the beginning of the story, so it just kind of keeps going. But the title is The Man with No Hat.
The man with no hat. For 30 years, I was like everyone else. I wore a hat. I wore it because I was told to. Because they said a bare head was exposure, that without a hat I was indecent, unfit for public view. They said if I went without it, I could be charged with public nudity, as if my skull were a shameful thing, as if thought itself needed covering. So I complied. I adjusted brims, tipped politely, replaced worn fabric with fresh lining. I learned which hats were appropriate for mourning, for work, for celebration. I learned that dignity had a shape, and that shape sat snugly on the crown of the head. Then one day, I didn't want to wear it. It wasn't rebellion at first. It was fatigue, a quiet, bone-deep refusal. I stepped outside bareheaded, and for the first time I saw them clearly. They were sick. An old man noticed immediately. His eyes widened in horror, not at my face, not at my expression, but at the crime of my uncovered head. He rushed me, fumbling with his own hat, trying to force it down onto my skull like a priest shoving a sinner toward salvation. I pushed him away without thinking. He fell. His head struck the pavement with a sound that still echoes in my sleep. He died there. The crowd gathered quickly, but not for him. No one screamed about the life leaving his body. No one demanded justice for the blood pooling beneath his hatless corpse. They only stared at me and shouted that I must wear his hat as penance, that it was only right, that it was what he would have wanted. I almost did it. I stood there holding the fallen man's hat, feeling its warmth, its weight, its invitation back into forgiveness. I knew that if I placed it on my head, the world would exhale. The crime would dissolve. The dead man would matter again only as fabric and symbol. But my head owes them nothing. My head will be free. I ran. I hid in the shadows for weeks. There was free food for the hungry, tables set up by smiling volunteers, but when they saw me, their smiles collapsed into scowls. The man with no hat was demented. The man with no hat was dangerous. No one would feed a naked-headed man. Someone always called the police. The process was efficient. Handcuffs first, then gently, almost tenderly, a complimentary hat placed upon your head. All people must face judgment with dignity, they said, and dignity requires a hat. To refuse a hat was to refuse society's benefits. Only animals didn't wear hats, they told me. Only beasts rejected civility. Hunger gnawed at me, so I stole to survive. And every time my victims screamed not about their stolen goods, but about my uncovered skull. They didn't chase me for their wallets. They chased me with spare hats. They cried and howled upon realizing that their robber was a naked-headed animal. They didn't want their things back. They wanted me corrected. These people are sick, and they want to press the symbol of their sickness down onto my head until I disappear beneath it. They call me mad. They call me dangerous. I call them sick. Because I am the man with no hat.
Alrighty, I really liked the way the story turned out, and I love the narration. I think we're going to be sticking with this narrator for a while. It just came out very smoothly, so hopefully I haven't offended some strange part of AI by, saying that I don't like the old voice as much, but that was just a really good narration, and I hope you enjoyed this strange world that I have created here. The hat could represent so many things: politics, religion. Um, People will try to force symbols and ideas upon you and labels. Everybody has to label everybody else. As much as you try to escape the labels, people will put labels on you. It's just part of life. as much as you can try to avoid it as much as possible. It's but it's also just a strange sci-fi world where people have a very different belief system. Where if you just think of it out of context, it's crazy, and that's what he did. He was in context all his life for 30 years, and then he just kind of thought about it. Is it's kind of crazy to demand that my head be covered. Why should my head be covered? Why can't I have the simple freedom of not wearing a hat? You know, just like how some people will criticize atheists for being like godless, and they just they don't care what you believe as long as you believe something. But sometimes I think it's better to just weigh the arguments on one side and the other, and you don't have to believe anything. You know, you can just listen to arguments. That's my way of not wearing a hat. You know, I suppose the other way I don't wear a hat is I try not to be political. I try not to have someone else speak for me. And I do wear a hat, but I do try not to wear logos of companies. But if you look really close, there is a tiny little logo on this hat. So I'm not 100% keeping with that rule. I just, don't like to display a giant logo, just like our main character did not want to display a hat, and he's seen as some kind of a madman for simply not wanting a hat. I've been through a part in my life where I tried to go without a house, and people thought I was crazy for that. I know what it's like to be looked at totally different when you change one thing about yourself, and it's like the people you thought you knew, you don't know them anymore, and so who knows what hat you're wearing now that you might offend somebody when you take it off. We have so many expectations and things placed upon ourselves. We often don't realize how much fulfilling those expectations affects other people, you know, and that's the thing with religion and groups is when you decide you don't want to be a part of those groups anymore, you feel like you're letting the other group members down because that thing you had in common you don't have in common anymore. And so the idea of everybody wearing a hat could symbolize anything that brings a community or society together. It was just that one thing that everyone agreed is that's what makes you civil. That's simply how society is. And you could look at that as how we treat clothing in general. I'm sure a nudist would think that's what this story is about. This story is obviously about nudism. Like, clearly, people should be allowed to go around naked without people being all offended about my dick flopping around or whatever. Why is it any of their business? It's my dick. But that's not how most people think. Most people would see that as a crime to public decency, like a man not wearing a hat in that strange world we just heard a story from. So let me know what you think about this little story. I don't know if you'd even have to call it a sci fi story as much as maybe a weird fiction story. Is our main character just crazy and it's actually a world more similar to our own, and he's just looking at hats as the symbol to strike out against because he sees hats everywhere. Police have hats, religion has hats, everybody's got their own fancy hat. It's a hat conspiracy. Is it a hat conspiracy? Let me know. Anyways, I'm Captain Canada, Joseph Arthur Roszell. I want to thank you for watching. I want to wish you all the luck in the world. I love you, and I want you to know that suicide is never, ever the answer. Peace out for now.